This program is sponsored by Auckland City Council. 185. The number of ethnic groups in Auckland City. 38. The percentage of Auckland residents who were not born in New Zealand.
Questions to have them asked, and I'll start with the first one. George, what's your phone? Oh, okay, it's 9:30, we'll go to 10 o'clock. Your comments on Hamas fighting Fatah in Palestine, how does this affect finding a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? George is going to take three at a time. What would you make of the current civil war in Iraq in light of the savage invasion of a country which was considered one of the most intermixed and tolerant of sectarian differences in the Muslim world? Dear George, what is your opinion about US propaganda against Iran's nuclear program? And do you think Iran is being unlawful to NPT? I'm not sure what that is, but I hope you will. The NPT laws and regulations.
Those are very good questions, but they're not unrelated. Let me start with the last. I've never understood the argument, which seems to me reducible only to the racist idea that some people are allowed to have nuclear weapons but other people are not. I've never understood the idea that America can have 50,000 nuclear weapons, that Britain can have nuclear weapons, that Israel can have nuclear weapons, that Musharraf can have nuclear weapons, that India can have nuclear weapons, but Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. Israel has nuclear weapons pointed at Iran, but Iran is not allowed even to build a nuclear power plant in case it might one day lead to a nuclear weapon to defend itself against the nuclear weapons pointed at them. Let me tell you, I'm against all nuclear weapons. I'm one of the few members of Parliament to have been arrested outside the British nuclear weapons base at Faslane on the Clyde. I gave the only interview to the BBC ever given by a man being carried upside down by 4 policemen. And there's a photograph on the internet to prove it. I'm against all nuclear weapons. But I can't accept that Israel can have hundreds of nuclear weapons and Iran must be invaded, attacked, pulverized, because it might one day be dreaming of building a nuclear weapon for itself. That's pure racism, so far as I am concerned. It would also be the biggest mistake ever made. Believe me, I've never been to Iran. Remember this because it might become important one day. I've never been to Iran. I've never met any Iranian leader. I don't even like the regime in Iran. But if George Bush invades Iran, I'll be with Iran, and so should you, and so should the anti-war movement around the world. Because, for many reasons, but including, Iran is not a broken-backed country like Iraq was. Iran is a rich and powerful country who will answer the attack upon her everywhere. She will answer first and foremost in Iraq, where we, in a supreme achievement of Anglo-American foreign policy, have made the Islamic Republic of Iran the top dog in Iraq, and our soldiers constitute a thin red line surrounded in the south of Iraq by 10 million Shiite Muslims whose sympathies in the context of an attack on Iran, believe me, will not be with the attackers, but with the Iranians. If you've ever seen the film Zulu, that's what it will look like, but without a happy ending for the thin red line. Iran will answer in the Persian Gulf, in the Arabian Gulf. Every oil well within reach of Iranian munitions will be burning. You can forget about going to work. There'll be no work, there'll be no cars, there'll be no buses, there'll be no oil at $500 a barrel, never mind $60 a barrel, because every oil well in the Gulf will be burning. And Hugo Chavez has announced that if there's an attack on Iran, Venezuela will produce no oil for the United States as a result. Iran will answer. She will answer in Lebanon, where she has friends. She will answer in Palestine, where for most of the last year and a half, the only people putting a crust of bread on the plates of the Palestinians under occupation has been the Islamic Republic of Iran. She will answer all around the world, everywhere. So no one should think that attacking Iran is some kind of cheap policy option. It will turn out to be the most expensive mistake in history. And we must hope and do everything we can to try and stop it happening. Now, of course, in Iraq, there is intense and murderous internal, ethnic, and interreligious confessional hatred and murder. Not every operation which takes place with the intention of making those communal divisions in the country worse is in fact committed by those who claim that it's committed. There is, for example, the whole question of the phenomena of Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Who are Al-Qaeda? Who are they really working for? What's their purpose? Nobody at this stage really knows, but as our friend from the United States knows, and anyone who's ever read Graham Greene's Quiet American knows, occupations of other people's countries have long used false flag outrages as a means of dividing the people, weakening them, the better that they can be ruled. However, it's obviously true that the internal hatreds in Iraq, which have come out from under the stones, moved by the invasion and occupation of that country, are real enough. And some, maybe many, maybe most, of the acts of mass murder committed by one ethnic or confessional group against each other are real enough. The people and their bodies exist to prove it. It may be that the great Iraq is broken forever. It may be that Humpty Dumpty can never be put back together again. It may be that these hatreds are so intense that they can never be gainsaid. Personally, I myself don't believe this. But I say to you this, one thing is certain. The people who brought this devastation in Iraq cannot possibly be the people to solve it. If somebody invaded your house, God forbid, slaughtered half your family, destroyed your house from top to bottom, how would you feel if they said, well, now that we've done all that we've done, we intend to stay here for as long as we like? until we've decided you're fit to get your house back again. You'd reject it, and the Iraqis reject it absolutely. The resistance in Iraq against foreign occupation is now virtually total. Even the opinion polls taken by the occupation opinion poll companies themselves demonstrate that more than 85% of the Sunni population support attacks on occupation forces. 55% of the Shiite population supports, this is in the opinion polls of the occupation itself, 55% of Shiites support attacks on occupation forces. Even 18% of Kurdish people support attacks on occupation forces. So I agree with General Sir Richard Dannat, the Chief of the British Army General Staff, who shouldn't be second-guessed easily, who said earlier this year, our presence in Iraq is exacerbating the conflict, it's making every matter worse, and we must withdraw from Iraq as quickly as possible. I put it this way: withdrawal of the foreign forces is a necessary but not sufficient condition for the return of Iraq to some kind of normalcy. That is to say, withdrawing the foreign forces will not guarantee a return to peace in Iraq, but failure to withdraw the foreign forces will guarantee endless war and violence and division within Iraq. And now I turn to the first of these questions. This has to be understood in its proper context. Once upon a time there was nothing called Hamas. The Palestinian people were behind one umbrella organization. The sole legitimate representatives then of the Palestinian people, the PLO, under the leadership of the late President Arafat. They decided more than 30 years ago to accept a two-state solution whereby this tiny land of Palestine, smaller than a single park in South Africa, would be partitioned into two states, Israel and Palestine. That led to the election of Hamas. I'm not a supporter of Hamas. I never have been. I was with Arafat all my life and was standing at his hospital when he passed away in Paris. I never supported Hamas, but hey, they don't need my support. Hamas were elected by the Palestinian people, and if we believe in democracy, we must respect the decisions of the Palestinian people in their election. But of course we did not. We besieged the Palestinians for voting for a party which Bush and Blair and Sharon and Olmert didn't like. And thus we yet again sent around the Arab world the idea that you can have democracy, but only if you vote for the stooges of which we approve. If you choose your own representatives, of whom we don't approve, then we'll starve you and destabilize you until the kind of events which occurred in Gaza over the last few weeks occurs, and the Palestinian people, already divided and scattered around the world, are divided still further. Thank you very much.
I have a message here from Dr. Ashraf Chowdhury, MP. He said to George, welcome to New Zealand. Because of another appointment which I cannot avoid, I have to leave shortly. Sorry, I cannot stay the whole of your lecture. And I wanted to read this because I thought it actually hit a nerve with me. It said, when I first heard about you, George, it seemed to me that you were against Islam. But now I have realised that you are supporting Islam, so I ask you to forgive my bad intention, as Islam teaches to ask for forgiveness when we wrong someone. So I'll put 3 questions to you. What do you think is the real reason for attacking Muslims and Islam? What do you think New Zealand should do to avoid Islamophobia spreading, both at the local level and at the international level? And what would your message be to MP Chris Carter, whose government continues to support the occupation of Afghanistan with hundreds of soldiers, including the SAS?
Well, on that one, I think it's a profound mistake to sacrifice in part your reputation in the world. Your country is loved and revered around the world. It was quite touching, the 3 hours on live radio I spent today, receiving hundreds of calls, texts and emails from 1 million listeners, all of whom said how lucky you are to be in a peaceful, harmonious country like New Zealand. And you shouldn't sacrifice that cheaply. Are you needed in Afghanistan? Do you need to send SAS soldiers to kill Afghans? And some of them will kill you back. Please be under no illusion about that. The empire strikes back. And it strikes back not just there, but wherever it can. Don't imagine when you read that special forces killed 10 Taliban, 50 Taliban, 150 Taliban. Those of you old enough to remember will remember that that's exactly what you used to read from Vietnam on a daily basis. That so many hundreds of Viet Cong were killed today. But of course they weren't Viet Cong. They were just Vietnamese. And these Taliban that are being killed are just Afghans. And for every atrocity, every wedding party that's bombed, every school that's bombed, every act of murder that's committed in the name of fighting the Taliban, new hatreds will be generated from the Afghan people against their occupiers, against their invaders. And you shouldn't want to be included in that number. Please don't believe that SAS soldiers have gone there to paint fences or to build bridges. Special forces are sent to countries to kill people, and some of them soon. You've been very lucky so far. In my own country, now 2 or 3 soldiers a week are coming back in boxes from Afghanistan, from a war which our then Defence Secretary said he hoped our soldiers would go to and return, and I'm quoting him, without firing a shot in anger. Now our soldiers are killing and being killed in ever increasing numbers. So it's up to you what happens in New Zealand. It's not up to me, but if I were you, I'd take this advice. Don't put yourselves amongst the ranks of the hated countries of the world. Preserve your reputation, hard won over many decades as a peaceful and harmonious country. As to what you should do, it's really a matter for you. I didn't come all this way to entertain you, though I hope it's been entertaining. I came here to recruit you to the movement which my friends on the top table are trying to build. I came here to recruit you to the Working Together campaign, to RAN, in the hope, you asked me what the single best thing you could do, it's at the elections in a couple of months, you would elect more Robins, more people like Grant, more people who stand for the good things in this world. Elect them. That would be what I would do And that would be the most effective message that you could send to these Australian preachers. But give your names, your email addresses, stay in touch with each other, stay in touch with the organisers of this conference, so that this great crowd here, Grant talked about a core, a cadre, which the other side are trying to build. I tell you this, looking out at this vast audience this evening, and the one that gathered yesterday, you have plenty of soldiers for justice here in Auckland, and you should all stay together as one hand, Muslim and non-Muslim, fighting. And the other question, Robin, remind me, was, shout out if you remember it. Okay, in that case we'll move on to, how many more are we taking? My voice is giving out, I must tell you.
I think that's a really good place to end, George. I think
Nice.
you wrapped that up really, really nicely. And I'd just like to remind you, as you go out, you'll see some of these, and remember what you do.
Silent collection.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite Ismail Waja to come and say just a very brief closing statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving us this honour of conveying my gratitude and thanks to our speakers, especially to Honourable George Galloway. Honourable George Galloway, we have the greatest respect for the position you hold. We have greater admiration for your stance as Member of Parliament and the role that you are playing.
This program was sponsored by Auckland City Council. 56,827. The number of businesses in Auckland City. That's 15% of all New Zealand businesses.